Hi, it's Lindsay, and I have an opinion about transportation. But before I get into that, please like and subscribe and share these videos if you enjoy what I'm doing. Now let's get started. So I'm part of the transport problem in this country. A problem is twofold. One, the public transport system is in a shambles. And two, there's too many cars on the road. We share the second problem with pretty much every single large country in the world. Every single city has a congestion problem. In 2006, Stockholm in Sweden enforced or started a test run of a congestion charge system. So they charge guys about €1 or €2 to enter over one of the bridges, because you know Stockholm is surrounded by a lot of islands, or at least the city is made up of islands. So there's bridges coming over from every part, and on every bridge there was a toll. So for 4 months, starting in January 2006, there was a congestion charge in place. So this was a toll for any vehicle coming into the city center. Congestion dropped by 40% and travel times decreased by 22%. The moment the toll was reversed though, and it became free access into the city center, the traffic levels went up to almost what they were before the tolls. Then in January 2007, the tolls were made permanent and traffic fell back to normal usable levels. Wider roads won't decrease the car traffic problem. Because what happens when you make the roads wider, as we've been doing in Johannesburg, Pretoria and Cape Town most recently, is the moment the roads become a lot more free, people will use their cars more frequently. That is explained by the increase in traffic levels once the toll was dropped in Stockholm. So the first course of action, if you want to fix any traffic problem, is to discourage the use of the motor car. I said I was part of the problem, and that's because earlier this year, I was living more than 20 kilometers away from the office, which was in the Cape Town CBD, and I was commuting every single day by car alone. So if you times me by the approximate 1 million cars that take to the streets of Cape Town every single day, that becomes a very, very, very big problem. 3 ways we can sort out our transport. One is to discourage car use. So that means more tolls and other sorts of taxes that force you to reconsider using a car. High petrol price that we're experiencing right now and all the taxes on that, that's one way of taxing road users and discouraging them from using their vehicles. The other one is to introduce a congestion charge in our CBDs. The only thing that the congestion charge does is it makes it more expensive a decision to drive into a city. So then you have to really consider the economic impact of it. So it's like if you are just going to the CBD because the Clicks there has a special on your favorite hair shampoo, if it's going to cost you an additional 60 Rand, you're probably just going to go to the nearby store. Step 2, that is to improve and prioritize safety in our public transportation. Urban planning in South Africa has been focused around economic hubs. So where there are rich people, there is less public transport infrastructure because everyone can afford a car. You are then stuck with a problem where in the CBD areas, for instance, where there's nobody living, during off-peak times, it's a pretty dangerous place to be because no one's out in the streets. So there's no safety in numbers. What we need to do is encourage densification and force people to move back into the city so that there's constant foot traffic, which is the way it happens in Europe. Sidebar, European towns were planned before the onset of the economical car. So the average European only had access to like cheap cars very late in the cycle. So there was bigger emphasis on zoning business areas closer to residential areas so that you would have that constant foot traffic and you're decreasing the distance people have to commute every day. When people don't have to commute that far, they will look at other alternatives, as in bicycles, or maybe run commuting, or just walking to work. So when you're doing this, you are getting younger people to move to the cities. And this is important because at the moment, younger people are also less likely to be owning cars. This is a global trend that has been happening since about the turn of the decade. If you can't do that, if you're stuck in a situation that Cape Town is right now, or in the Johannesburg CBD most importantly, yes, there are pockets of like Maboneng precinct, where they have been gentrifying and trying to get people to move back to the cities, but it's not working out so well, because then you still have people like working in Sandton and then commuting from the city to Sandton, so they're just clogging up other routes. But I digress. The other option is to then up your police visibility, and this is it's a double-edged sword, because it gives you the illusion of safety. So when people divert from streets where there's heavy police access, i.e. the foreshore in Cape Town, and they're going into darker alleyways and little side roads, the frequency of muggings in those non-patrolled areas increases exponentially. But there's one advantage that cities have over suburban areas, and that is room for public infrastructure. So this means you can divert traffic better, so you can start using one-ways or start opening up streets entirely, like what was done in Scotland around about 2008, where they removed pavements and all sorts of intersections where you have this mishmash of pedestrians and cars, and I promise you the accident rates actually dropped quite a lot. It was almost like 70% reduction within the first year of implementing these open street policies. So you can better enforce bike lanes, you can better control traffic, and then if you add that to congestion charges that will fund these sorts of projects, while getting better public transport infrastructure where it matters most. So that brings me to point number 3. We need to reclaim our roads for the road users. Instead of cities dictating where bicycle traffic should go, as in the Woodstock experiment that is failed now, where the city of Cape Town decided that cyclists should rather go down Lower Main Road amongst all the taxis and heavy traffic over there and get knocked over and have delivery vehicles standing in the way. They didn't make provision for extra loading bays or parking areas, so now people are just parking and cycling anyway. But again, I digress. Instead, we should be constructing our cycle lanes along the organic routes that those road users are taking anyway. Case in point is the West Coast corridor, with the cycle lane stretching all the way from Tableview side into the CBD along the MyCity bus route. MyCity bus is a great example of a public transport system that favors the middle class. Yes, there are the token routes that go out into Khayelitsha and clogs up the N2 every morning, but it's more for people who can afford it. So it's like the upper parts of town coming down the hill, more actually to go home in the evening, going up the big mountain, or going out into Tableview, Bloberg, that side. If MyCity bus really wanted to focus on the people, it would open up a corridor to the north of Cape Town, like the northern suburbs, Bellville, that side, where there are high concentrations of train users, where the train system in Cape Town is actually beyond useless right now. I used to be a train commuter. I used to do the fold-up bicycle onto the special business express train, and then I used to use my fold-up to ride to the train station, and then from the train station where I got off to the office, and then the reverse in the evening. Then one day I got mugged, ended up with a broken arm, so I swapped the bicycle for run commuting, and that was also cool. The Cape Town train system is in a shambles. It's almost unusable. For the last 18 months, the average delay has been about 50 minutes, and train frequency has dropped from 5 trains during the peak times of 6 and 7:30 in the morning to about 3 trains. And this is still catering to an ever-growing number of users. Frequency has also dropped because of vandalism and just general maintenance failures. The only way we can fix this is to, one, first digitize all of our signaling systems, which is one of the biggest problems we have facing the train service at the moment. When you are digitizing the signaling, you're also decreasing the failure rate, because it will be a fiber connection going from point to point to point. When you're doing that, when you've digitized the system, you can also improve your ticketing and move that over to a digital system as well. When you digitize everything, that means you can automate, and automation is the best way to fix anything nowadays. I told you I'd get back to buses. So with buses, there's an easy fix. Just make a more efficient bus route system, spread it out into the burbs, connect it to the train system or to other high efficiency dedicated service lines. Going to the highways, we need to then make sure that our dedicated BRT, bus rapid transport lines, are protected and only open to the public within certain time periods. So that you have a continuous schedule of buses that get, like at 8:30 in the morning, everybody in the N2 knows that there's a bus train or platoon, as these trains of cars are called, coming through with some taxis behind it, and schedule those within like half an hour segments. So to fix traffic in South Africa, it's a three-step process. Step one, most importantly, reduce our dependence on the motor car. That leads to step two, have alternatives to the motor car and enforce these alternatives by penalizing you for using your motor car. Step three is upgrading the infrastructure overall. Better bus lanes, better cycle lanes, more security and promoting higher foot traffic in public areas, especially in our CBDs, so that it becomes safer overall. Reducing our dependence on the car is the best thing we can do, not only for traffic, but for the environment and for the next generation. But that's just my opinion. Use it, don't use it. This has been Lindsay, another Hammer Rose production, shot at the Panda Bomb Media Studios. Cheers.
Keep rocking.